Listen, I appreciate you doing this. This is so much
Yeah,
fun.
no problem.
Professional level and on a personal level, I always really was interested in speaking to you. I've always told you since the first time we started speaking back in college, you're a class act, and I know that watching you play, I knew you were gonna find your way in there and get your position in the pro tour. By the end of college, you just looked like you were different. So I'm just happy you've done it. You're there and you're doing it and you're grinding. And I really truly appreciate you doing this for me, for tennis, for you. I mean, I know you're gonna have fun. So we're gonna kind of go through your journey here a little bit.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Looking at your entire journey, I know you're not done, but growing up and in college and also now in the tour, like, do you think you're successful? Did you always know?
No, honestly, no. Did I think I'd ever get into the top hundreds, things like that? No. I mean, it was always like a dream when when you first start playing and you see, Sharapova, Henin, Clijsters, oh, that's where I want to be. But did I really, really believe it? Probably not. It was just always really far, distant kind of goal. But I think most young kids have that goal, like, I want to win Wimbledon, I want to play Grand Slam, like things like that. But as I grew older and saw just how difficult it would be, I don't think I ever thought I would get there. It just, when you're playing and you're actually in the tournaments and you're trying to build your ranking, you go, oh my goodness, it gets exponentially harder to get to that place, and the competition gets even harder. So yeah, when I was growing up playing the ITF juniors, stuff like that, I definitely didn't think about, or never thought I would get to this point. Yeah, so this has been a surprise, really.
It's a nice surprise, isn't it?
Yeah, really nice. I mean, it's honestly, like, I didn't really think growing up I had such a very balanced kind of childhood. So I kept a lot of doors open. Like, I was in school the whole way. I was very academic. So there were a lot of goals. Like, there was, I want, maybe I'll follow my dad, do engineering at one point, and maybe like a year later I'm like, oh, maybe medicine is an option. And then I also played soccer, so I was like, oh, maybe I just want to play soccer and like do that. And then there's tennis, and so I had a lot of options. And it is surprising for me that I've ended up choosing tennis, because I don't think a lot of people during high school, especially my coaches then, would have necessarily picked me out to be the one that chose tennis. I was always a lot more focused on my other things. So yeah.
During those years, or even so, looking back then and knowing now how you describe success and how you've learned to see that differently, like, how do you describe success then, how the way you saw it, and now?
So I think back then it would have been very results oriented. I think I would have defined success as, like, being able to make a living out of tennis, being top 50, like playing all the slams, getting really far in slams. That's what I would have thought as a successful tennis player. I mean, that's what you're exposed to on TV. You see everyone, Federer, Nadal, that's the epitome of success, making millions of dollars, playing every week in finals. Like, that's what you grew up thinking. But the reevaluated kind of success that I have now is just the process goals, really, like how to get better every day. Trying to instead of making it so ranking oriented or results based, I think what I've learned to do or have adapted to is just trying to think, how can I become a little bit better, whether that's like get a little bit more slice on that serve, a little bit more like RPMs on my forehand, get a little bit more accurate. Like, those things for me are attainable, and when I get them and I can feel that I've mastered that, I can check that off. That for me feels successful. Like, it doesn't really matter if I win the match nowadays. It's when I come off the court, can I tick off, I executed this really well, what I wanted to go in to do, and I did it, and no regrets. Maybe my opponent played better or something, but I did what I wanted to do and what I've been practicing to do. So I know it sounds pretty corny and cliche, but for me, like coming off that and like seeing myself, 6 months ago I couldn't do that, that makes me feel pretty proud and successful in that way.
Yeah, and that's how it should be. That's impressive because you do it every day, and it can get a little bit hard and heavy, I suppose. And
Yeah.
I kind of, I kind of have an idea of how that can feel as a player and as a coach. So I praise you. Yeah. How did you? So growing up, and you're saying right, like you did soccer and you did a lot of things, and you had a lot of ideas in your brain. When did you realize, or what made you realize that I might be pretty good at tennis? I can give this a shot.
So growing up, like I would try and do a lot of tennis, but compared to the other kids, like I was not nearly like at 13, I was still, like an hour private lesson with my shared with my brother. So 30 minutes twice a week and 1 week or like 2 days a week of like a squad practice. So that's not a lot
Wow.
of tennis.
Yeah.
And so at about 14, when I went into the kind of state academy and I started doing things a bit more rigorously, it's still even then it would be like twice a week, hour and a half individual, twice a week squads or something. Like still wasn't compared. I mean,
Yeah.
comparatively, if you're looking at like, oh, I want to be a professional tennis player, most kids are going like every day, few hours individuals, and then like also squads. So I was not anywhere close to that, and I didn't really think too much about going. I always had that like, oh, I want to play tennis, I want to see how good I can get. And then maybe my last year of high school, I just finished my like big exams and I was done with high school, and I was like, maybe I'll play on the circuit for a bit. But I never had the intention of like, oh, I'm gonna go pro. It was more like I want to see like how maybe I can get to like top 500. I don't know, stuff like that. And then
And
I ended up breaking my ankle, having some setbacks when I went on the pro circuit. So that was from December to about May, and I really was like, oh, it's too stop start. I'm not getting any results, and I just wasn't ready. I think physically, emotionally, mentally, and I got that call
this
from
was
Elite.
what age? What age was
This
this
was right
when you?
after I graduated high school, so in like 2012.
Mhm.
So then I had been in a little bit of contact with Aliki from Vandy, and I just was like, no, I don't really want to do that. I'm going to go pro after I graduate from high school. So in December 2012, I started playing all the pro circuits tournaments. And so from January onwards, but then I broke my ankle in about March, and I came back and I ended up getting another wrist injury. And so I decided maybe I'll go to college, maybe for a year just to see how it goes. And then I want to go back out on the professional circuit and just see. And that was and at no point was I like, oh, I'm gonna spend like 10 years on or like a long time in the professional circuit. It was more like I just want to like see if I can like play a little bit there. But so yeah, after those injuries, I just decided maybe I wasn't ready for it, and decided to go to college. Yeah.
So then, right? So you would say that you weren't so serious about tennis about 13. Then at 17, you were pretty good to the point where like, let me try the pro tour. You get injured, and then you said you didn't know so much about college yet. You really didn't understand, how good it
Yeah.
was and all of that. But
Mm-hmm.
then you said, I'm gonna go for a year to see how it goes, and I still want to go pro. So would you say, when did that feeling or want started for you? Like when you tasted it, or when you started playing better, or like when? How?
So basically, even at that point, the feeling of going pro was more just like, oh, I want to do it because I've always studied my whole life, like I was always really serious about my studies. So I was like, I want to go for a period where I just focus nothing about like just all on tennis, like what my coaches all through high school, they're like, you need more tennis, you need more focus. And I was always like, I have too much going on, I can't. And
They
so then I
knew
was like,
they
okay,
knew
let's
how good they knew how good you could be, Sharma.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think there's a little bit of that, but just I think they could see that like I was talented or had potential, and I just never, I was just really undercooked, like super athletic, but then, like would just spray balls everywhere and like things like that, where it's just you need more practice and more tennis. And so yeah, then I decided I'm gonna flip the switch and just do all tennis for a bit. But when I really felt that I could go pro or like I was really ready was maybe like my second or third year into college, like when I really like the fire was kind of like burning. Yeah, that was when, I mean, because before I was always just more like oh, I should do this because I've never really done it. But then when I started going to college and like seeing how fast I was improving, that was when I was like, oh my gosh, I love this, because I'd never been in an environment where that kind of was clicked so well. I've had really good
Yeah.
coaches and stuff, but when I went to college and I met Jeff, like we just were so quick to, like, he was so easy to talk to, had all the like the best knowledge, like knew how to just talk to me. And then suddenly I wasn't playing tennis because it was like, oh, I should because it's fun, like, and it's nice. But then suddenly I was like, oh my gosh, like I want to be here. I want to practice. I had that vision of like, oh, this is what I could do. Because before my tennis IQ was like zero. Like I would go on the court and I'd just be there hitting balls. I didn't understand, oh, if I hit this shot, what does that do? Kind of thing. And then in college when that started, it was like a whole different dimension of tennis opened up. And I was like, oh, this is so much more challenging and complex than what I thought it was before.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're describing exactly what I felt when I watched you playing as a freshman, and then when I watched you playing as a junior and a senior. I mean, it was such a huge change, and I mean, we would speak about this with Jeff and Aliki and the coaches, and it just was so impressive to see. And you were exactly doing that freshman year. You were spraying balls all over the place.
Yeah.
And then you got pretty smart. You got pretty sound. You understood your game. You understood how you could use it. I mean, credit to that to Jeff and your coaches, and how they kind of got your brain working there. But I'm excited. I'm excited you did it. You tasted it, and I knew you. I mean, your height, your strength, the way you move, your forehand, your serve, the way you can attack and put that height on the ball is amazing for women's tennis. So tell me, like, did your effort ever, when you started tasting it and you said, okay, I like it and I want to do this for me, and I am putting this together myself now. Did your effort ever waver? Did you ever have doubts? And if you had moments of doubts, how did you keep it enjoyable?
So yeah, this is a good question. I think every tennis player has that. But yeah, for the first part, when you have that taste and you're like, oh, how good I can become. You just like I pushed myself so hard. I was doing extra every day. Off days. Monday I go out and I hit another 2 hours, just like more ball machine by myself. I didn't care, serving ball machine, everything. I just wanted to get better. Like I could see it and I was like, if I just keep hitting, I know I can get there. I do extra fitness, everything. And it was to a point where I was overtraining massively. Like Jeff picked up on it. He's like, you need to stop. You need to pull back a bit. You're gonna get injured. And I did get injured, a lot of overuse injuries, a lot of tendonitis, a lot of like, just overuse. And I didn't listen to him because I was just like, no, like if I take a day off, I'm gonna lose my feel. It feels different, and so I keep ignoring him. I keep hitting, and eventually, and to tie back into the motivation, my redshirt freshman year when we played in 2015, I had a really good year. I was, coming out. No one really knew who I was in college tennis. And then suddenly we're in a national championship final and everyone's like, oh my goodness. The next year was like Sharma, like we all know who Sharma is. And so from being like the underdog and no one knowing me, I was suddenly like, oh, like we got to beat her, like she's really good. And the pressure and expectation killed me. I was just so nervous then. I started choking and just not performing because it was always a lose-lose situation. The only win situation for me was if I won the match, like 2 in love, like easy. But if I lost the match, then it's like, oh, I beat Astra Sharma. If I won the match and it was close, 7-6, 7-5, it's like, oh, I was really close to Sharma though. Like, and so I felt so, and that was all in my head, but I had put that on myself, and I started playing terrible. Like, I went from, pretty good in our lineup, and I kept getting moved down just because I couldn't handle it. I was losing at the lower end of our lineup, and I just had so much pressure. And like, even the practices with Aliki and Jeff, like, I remember like during team practice, we were playing points, and I would lose some points and I would just get so angry, and I was like, I should be better than this. Like, the expectation was just there, and I couldn't enjoy it. I just, you come out of a practice and your whole day is ruined, and then you have study on top of that. And I felt myself burning out. I was just, I can't do this. I don't know what to do. And the whole year was terrible. The fall was bad. The spring was bad. And then I decided to go in the summer and play. And the first match I played was a 10K in Bethany Beach. And I lost first round to a 14-year-old who was actually Whitney Osigwe's her first 10K. And I didn't know that. But it got to a point where, I was playing with a continental grip because I didn't know how to hit a ball. I just was chipping on both sides. And so I came off the court and I called Jeff and I was like, this isn't for me. I don't think I'm cut out to be a tennis player. Like, 1 year ago, I was doing really well in these tournaments, and now I'm out first round to little girls. I was like, this is unbelievable. Like, if I can't win now, how can I ever win again? And so I was kind of like, I think I'm going to just go back to studying. It's just been a year. I can't get out of this funk. I don't know what to do. And he said, yeah, that's fine. I mean, he gave me this article to read, and it was all about, it's called The 3 Jewels, actually. And it's 3 jewels are like hard work, good sportsmanship, positive attitude. And it's a really, like, if you read it and you're not in the right frame of mind, you just look at it and you're like, oh yeah, I know that. Like, good, yeah, like positive attitude. Yeah, everyone knows that. But for me, when I was at rock bottom, it was almost like that was the only thing I could cling on to. And he said, just read this article. Like, we get it. You're going to go back to studies. That's fine. He's like, why don't you just go to Europe anyway? Because we had made a schedule of like tournaments I was going to play. He's like, why don't you just go and have fun, have a holiday, and just play the tennis like for fun? So I was like, yeah, okay, I've already made the bookings. Like, fair enough, I'll just do that. And I ended up going, and that was like the turning point, because when you're so low and you only have like, okay, hard work, that's my goal on court. Then, like the rest of it just melted away. It wasn't about, oh, I lost, I'm down 3 love. It was like, did I put like max effort into this point? Did I have really good attitude? Was a good sportsman on this point? And so that was kind of like the clawing my way back up. But for that whole year, I was terribly depressed and not motivated to play at all. And so I understand when people say like, I'm burnt out or it's hard being, I 100% agree. And you can't be a robot all the time. And I think everyone has those swings. It's just whether you can get out of it or not.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you kind of have to go back to that kid, right? That kid that enjoyed the sport, that kid that, played squash, that played soccer, that kid that just wanted to have fun.
A lot of times you hear the top players in their press conferences and they ask like, they're like, why are you so great or something? And they say something like, oh, I just was really relaxed, or I reframed the narrative. I didn't put pressure on myself. I made it, and you hear it, and everyone knows it. Like, that's a thing. Like, everyone knows, oh, I have to have a good attitude. I have to put a lot of hard work in. But it's one thing to hear it, and it's another level to internalize it and actually understand, point in, point out what it means. And that's why it's easy to say, but really hard to do. Like, you can coach someone and say like, oh, hard work on this shot, or like, discipline. And again, it's like, yeah, you hear it all the time, but can you actually do it? And that's why I think a lot of players, like, it's just really hard to do. If everyone could do it, we'd all be, amazing champion. Like, I know it, I know the information, I know the feeling that I had when I played really well, but when you're in those low spots of confidence, like it's actually super hard to do, even if you know it and you've done it before. It's like the best players do it every day, repetitively, consistently, if they feel bad, if they don't feel bad, you know, like, and that's what I think is the difference. Like you
Yeah.
just, there's that understanding of like, that's the level, that's what I have to do. And yeah, and it's just, it's not just words to people, you know.
Yeah. Let's turn a little bit into your family on the growing up side and your career. To what
Mhm.
extent were they involved with you?
So they were paradoxically very involved and then also not very involved. So in what I mean by that was they would wholeheartedly support and get really into whatever I chose, whether it was soccer, whether it was tennis, whether it was my project at school. But at the same time, it's like I had total autonomy of what I was doing. So if I didn't want to play soccer, if I didn't want to play tennis, that's my decision. And they would just be like, okay, like you don't want to play, that's fine. Like, what do you want to do then? And if I said, okay, I want to play tennis, then they would just jump on board and be like, okay, like how, what do you need? What do you want? And it was almost like a journey together because my parents, for tennis, for example, like, they played casually. They picked it up maybe like when they were 20 to 30. And so they were playing, and that's how we got introduced to it. But they're not
So
like
they
tennis
didn't,
coaches.
right? They didn't. Did they know athletics, or they just
Yeah,
never?
so my dad used to be a high jumper. He used to, you know, like he loved sports. He used to play like soccer, squash, you know, so everything, track and field, like he did it all. But was he like a specialized like in any field? Like probably not. Like he just was very athletic as a person. So when we decided about tennis, or like when we started growing up playing tennis, it was almost like a bit like they had played like, you know, on the weekends with each other, but they not like they never had really like any formal training or coaching. So in a way, like when I was going through like ITFs and juniors, like it was a learning experience for them and for me. Like it wasn't, they would almost be on, like I come off a match and they'd be able to give me input and feedback, but at the same time, like they were also like learning with each match. And like if I had a problem, like when I was little, I couldn't serve and like I had double fault like 26 times, like it was, how do we get you, and it was because I was tight or something, like how do we get you to relax? Like they didn't know either. So it was, we would find out things, like I'd go hit my dad and we'd play points, and then he'd be like, you know, it really works for me when I move my feet a lot, maybe you try that. And then I would have something like, oh, hang on dad, like it really helps when I breathe a lot. And so it's all very casual, you know, like I wasn't, until I went into the state academy, the coaching I had was very like, you know, here and there, like hit by yourself and learn like what you're doing. And it was nice. Like even though like I think even now my parents know a lot more about tennis and they can read me, they've seen me play since, you know, they can, so when I play, like they know exactly like, oh, you didn't do this, you didn't do this, like they know it now. But they're not, they let me kind of, they've always let me be the captain of what I want to do. They've never come off a match and been upset with me or pushed. Like they're never the ones who tell me you need to go practice. They'll always be like, "Do you like? What's your plan?" Or like, "Are you hitting today?" Like they're never. They've always just been very hands off in that sense. And if I ask them, I'm like, "Oh, what did you see?" Because I just don't know. And it's nice because they have that big
Mm-hmm.
journey with me, and they have a lot of experience to draw on. And like, well, remember when you were little, like this came up too. And so it's nice to have that kind of voice and input. But they've done a really good job overall, I think, for me, just like letting me drive it myself and be motivated by myself instead of them going, you have to hit, or you're not, this is bad, or your backhand's not working, you know, things like that, where they've just been pretty good about it.
Yeah, it sounds like they believed in you all along, and it
Yeah.
sounds like, yeah, they. How big do you think that is and was for you? I mean, you just mentioned it, but I've talked to so many players that they've all mentioned the same. I mean, if my family didn't believe in me, I don't think it's just big.
I mean, 100%. I don't, especially tennis.
Yeah.
It's not a sport that's like you can just go out and you got to have a little bit of support, and like if you want to
A little bit, a
17-year-old.
lot.
Yeah, well, it's like a 17-year-old, like, okay, go play a tournament. That's a lot of money. That's a lot, my family wasn't there to kind of help me with that and like believe in me and keep pushing me and forward. I don't think so. And like they're the ones, both of them have been so supportive in terms of like anything I wanted to do, and just been so passionate. Like it's incredible to watch them um watch me in a way, because they get so excited in this. It's something that that motivates me sometimes when I'm in a bad situation. I'm like, oh well, mom, did you watch my match? And she's like, she would have woken up at like 3 a.m. to watch an American 3 p.m. match. And it's motivating, like, oh, someone really cares and like wants to see it. And even if I'm playing bad, it's like just having some like that unit behind you is nice.
Well, Astra, I'm always following your results, so you can feel that too. I don't wake up at 6 a.m. I don't wake up. I'll look at it
Thanks,
at night.
I think parents, they have the ability to, you know, let their child stand on their shoulders or stand on their child. It's hard. It's a tough thing to balance, like getting really invested in a sport, but also knowing when to step back and just like, I love you, it's okay. Honestly, the few times that my parents have like chastised me have been about things like attitude or like behavior on court. When I was little, I had a massive anger management problem, so I would smash my racket a lot, like be just kind of out of control, and it was just not acceptable to them. And that's when I think it's okay, when it's like someone has to set a standard. And my parents were like stepped in then and were like, you cannot do this. We will not let you play tennis if you continue this. Um, and honestly, like still, even sometimes they've watched me and I didn't have like the best attitude on court. That's the most cutting, I think, criticism from them, when I come off and they're like, what's with the attitude? And like, that was really, like spoiled. Like, what are you doing? And that for me is like oh yeah, and it's a bit of a call out.
For me, it's like you have the right combination of kind of like a team player and in a singles player, right? And like your own self. I think it's a perfect combination for you and for the sport of tennis. I think you got to be selfish, but not too selfish to forget about your support in your community and everybody that gets you through. Like you said, you need that support. So I think you have it, and it comes from your parents. It absolutely comes from the ground they've laid under you, and it's gonna help you. It's gonna help you through your career. You have a bunch of faces coming up soon. I think you're gonna pull through, and I think you're gonna do it. I have a feeling, and it comes from your parenting. So kudos to them, and keep going. So now that we've talked about your journey, we've talked about how big parenting was for you, and the way the parenting was for you. Just kind of look at your career and up until now, and what advice could you have for like the rising juniors, rising families, young coaches that are kind of embarking in the long process ahead?
I think for the juniors, it would be, is this your journey? Is this what you want? It has to be from their motivation. So I think sometimes you look at professionals and you see the glitz and the glam of tennis player, endorsements, etc., and you don't realize it's a lot of traveling by yourself, hotel rooms, lonely weeks on tour, lot of more losses than wins usually. Things in your game breaking down, having to repatch those, and confidence crisis, things like that. And so for a junior, like I think it's important they understand that, and that they're willing and like motivated to do that for themselves. For families, I think like just being there for your kid is so important. Like not putting any pressure or expectation on them, just letting them grow. And if it might not be tennis, it might be something else, like just pushing them in the direction that they want to go in. And for coaches, I think this is really important. A coach can literally make or break you, and especially formative years. There were times where I had some really pretty bad coaches when I was a teenager, and I nearly quit tennis. They just were pretty aggressive and just made me feel like I couldn't do it. Like I wasn't good enough, and I would never be good enough. And it was, when you're a younger kind of person, the opinions and the thoughts of someone who you hold as an authority figure, it might seem like a really off the cuff comment, but if it's negative, it can really impact on a young player, and they really hold that thing kind of close to heart and respect you. And so I think you got to be pretty careful, especially around younger players, to kind of understand what that they're being kind of formed, and whatever you say they're going to embody or believe.
And I think this goes really all the way to college as well. I mean, those years are huge, especially with a kid. I mean, with all of them, but now that we're talking tennis, with the kids that want to continue to go pro, I think is having a coach there, having a coach understanding what's coming next, understanding how tennis develops, understanding you as a person and the way this is communicated, with the anticipation of kind of those character tools that you're gonna need out in the tour. I mean, I think this is as big as a coach can help you in college, if that's what you want to take the career that you took. When you were in college, I was always interested in knowing from you, what do you think? I mean, I have a pretty good idea, but I want to hear from you. What do you think separated you from majority of everybody in college?
A couple things. I think at first was a hard work. Like, I really, really loved college tennis, and I knew I wanted to go pro. So I was always kind of holding myself to really high standard, having that future in mind, So I knew that, okay, maybe, what I'm doing now is more than what I need to do in college, but it's what I need to do to be a professional, Like that's the standard I was holding myself to. And then the second thing was, in college, like, there are quite a few players who just ball striking and game were equally, maybe more talented than me. And sometimes I would get the win over them, and I'd come off and, like, I know, like, I'm like, they have a, better this shot. But I think the difference was, especially in college tennis, there was, in the big moments or just in the every single point, there's a choice to be pretty tough and gritty. And it's hard to do the right thing sometimes. There's sudden death juice point. What do you want to do? And I think I made the choice to, and it might not have paid off when I lost the point, but I'm going to do the same, like, I'm going to lock down and do this. And I'm going to make her feel that, like, I'm not going to give her an inch. I'm going to play this way. And I'm going to make the choice to be, like, lights out tough. Like, you have to hit 5 winners to get by me, or like, you have to play an outrageous point to beat me. I think I committed to that behavior every time. It's not easy because it's super high intensity, a lot of commitment. And, then if you lose the point, I think there's a vulnerability to be like, those players that put it out there every single time, like, that's their best. They're not hiding it. They don't hide behind excuses of like, oh, I didn't try, or, like, I was trying to go for this big win. I was just like, no. In college especially, that can take you really fast. And I think I did that really well all the time. Like, I knew what I had to do, and I just, went after it.
Yeah, it's it's interesting because that's essentially the recipe to do well at any level in tennis.
Mhm.
but it gets very hard when you turn pro and when you're trying to crack that top 50 or top 100, whatever it is, because that level becomes so high, and you have to go for so much, and you actually have to go for your shots. And even though you're saying I'm gonna anchor down and be tough, if you anchor down too long, they might get a winner on you. And it's kind of like that balance. But at the end of the day, mentally, I think, and emotionally, that's the tool, right? That's where you have to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I mean in terms of the difference between college and professional, like the level of professionals that I've seen now. It's in college you could just get away with being tough. That's it. Like that's you just do that and you can get to like, top 10. You miss a break point here, you give away you can have like 10 break points in a match and convert two, and that you still win the match. And in a pro level match, you have one break point opportunity. You don't take it, that's 6-4, that's the set. And
Yeah.
the next steps that I've been working on, it's trying to I've always been really good at just being tough and like playing out. And but then it was like, okay, everyone's doing that now, and now people are actually hurting me and consistently, because it's a different level. You're tough, but now it's like we're also consistent with hurting people. So it was
Yeah.
is that it's that switch to yeah, being able to be brave on big points and understand the risk, understand like what I'm doing. And I think the risk factor comes in whether you're trying to be aggressive in terms of hitting the ball, taking time away. Um, and what I'm trying to do is lessen the risk, but keep the aggressiveness really high. So plays that I know always work, like big serve, why let that ball bounce? And in college, I just back up, hit a forehand, restart the point. And now in the pros, it's like, no, this is the best shot you have to win the point. That first ball, you can't. You get into the point, and the percentage just keeps dropping. So, and it's that, yeah, I need to be brave here, and then the risk lowers when you start practicing that and getting comfortable. And suddenly, like, I saw the difference in 2 tournaments. I committed to playing a certain way, and the first tournament it was terrible. Second tournament wasn't that great, but then started getting better third one. And it was just like, oh, the ones I missed before, I'm starting to make. I've learned from my mistakes. I feel comfortable being up here. I committed and I believed. I was like, I know this is the best chance I have, because I'm not going to win all of the points toe to toe, smacking balls 1 inch over the net. So
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest step with the best players in college. But I mean, you went on, and I mean, I remember blinking and you were what, top 100? I mean, it just went so fast. How did you, like, why? How do you think? I mean, your level was there. Every time I watch you play your best tennis, even in college, just with the shots, I used to say she's playing top. I mean, I used to say top 150, 200 in a so day. I mean, you had it, and then but you cracked them fast. And I think what you're learning now is, it's something kind of like pretty basic, but I think it's gonna get you even farther out. But the weapons,
mhm.
you have them. But what did you learn about cracking the rankings so fast? Am I right asking that?
I was playing really free. I came out of college. I hit a really good, like, I played a lot of matches and the momentum was flowing. So I hit this patch where I just was playing really well. And suddenly, it was like a couple rounds at a slam. Then, high altitude tournament in Bogota and finals there. And suddenly my ranking was inside the top 100.
I watched you. I
And
watched that final.
yeah, and it was for me, like, it gave me belief, first of all. And I was like, okay, like, that very elusive goal of top 100 was like, oh, I'm here and I'm actually matching the girls. I'm as good as them. I'm not being hit off the court. My B plus game is good enough to be here. But then the second lesson that I learned was, I think the latter half of 2019, I didn't do that great because I was so obsessed. I fell into that trap of, oh, well, I'm top 100. to maintain this ranking, what do I need to be? Like, what round do I have to win? And then I started thinking I have to play like a top 100 player. So the clarity around my game went, because I was so in my own head about what it meant to be top 100, what I had to do, who I had to kind of be. And so I found myself really quickly, losing a lot of matches and playing pretty bad, just, basic things that I was doing in college I suddenly wasn't even doing now. More than ever, I need to do the 3 jewels, hard work, positive attitude. But it's so hard, because now you're like, well, now it's not just college where I can play a couple matches every week. It's like my livelihood is on the line. And to recommit and buy into that was really hard. To go, okay, there's some big flaws in my game, and I need to do this to step up to the next level. Because yes, I could play this way and get to hit top 100 and everything, but do I want to be top 100, or do I want to crack top 50, stay in the top 50, And I was like, I need to redo. I was doing better till the pandemic hit, but yeah, so that was a big lesson I learned basically from the top 100. It's like, no matter what level you are, the same lessons are going to come at a higher level, or maybe a different version of the same lessons. But you still, you gotta, it's that same thing of really believing and committing to these cliches, so to speak. But yeah.
Listen, we usually finish with what's a personal motto and kind of advice for you when you were a little bit younger. So let's go for one personal motto that you live by in your life.
I think, and this is a bit tongue-in-cheek, but Jeff used to say it. We'd be playing all these matches, and he'd come at a changeover, and we'd be like, Coach, what are we doing wrong? We'd be playing doubles, and he'd just be like, just be better. You're just like, what? How? But I've actually thought about that a lot in the last couple of years, and it's it's a good motto, because it's just be better is relative, whether it means just one less double fault or one less unforced error. You can always just be better, a little bit better version of yourself than a second ago, a day ago, a month ago. And I think for me that it just always means continuous growth, continuous improvement. And so I've tried to always just, in whatever I do, whether it's school, tennis, just being a person, just be better. And so that it is a bit tongue-in-cheek, because I think my old teammates would laugh at me when I say this, but yeah, it's definitely become something I try and do. Yeah.
What's an advice you would give, maybe you told me 13, an advice you would give a 16-year-old Sharma?
16-year-old Sharma. At 16,
she was breaking rackets then, right?
Yeah. So at 16, I'd probably just be work a lot harder than what you're doing. Because 16-year-old Astra didn't really know what was going on, and probably just work a lot harder. It wasn't gonna cut it then.
Anyways, thank you so much. I had such a pleasure of seeing you grow, seeing you push, seeing you play, choking, not choking, hitting aces, hitting drop shots that weren't supposed to be drop shots, but they came along and that was celebrated. You were great. I will never forget your celebration at Wake Forest when you won your singles match. That celebration against Stanford was priceless. It was amazing. I was standing right behind you, and I had to be partial, and I was partial, but I just was I mean, come on, that was the best part of the match. That was the best part of the match.
I remember that really well, because I was cramping, and it was I knew if I didn't win my service game, there's no way I was going to break her, and then she's just going to roll over me and win the match. So it was really up to that one point. So when I won, I was so happy. And I let go of the racket, just like sheer like tightness
Oh
in my
my
arm, like
God.
I was
Yeah.
cramping, and I just let it go, and I was just like so happy. And but yeah, nowadays, so obviously my celebration's a lot more subdued, and no one can quite believe it on the pro circuit. And I'm like, oh yeah, I was so intense in college. I used to do all these crazy things. I'm like, no way. And I show them that clip, and they're just like, oh my gosh, like, what are you doing?
Listen, there's gonna come a day in your pro career where you're gonna celebrate like that. I know it. I know it. You have to.
I nearly got a point penalty apparently for nearly like going to the
No.
stand.
Listen, anybody that would have given you a point penalty for that, the referee was gonna get nailed. Everybody, no, it's impossible.